welcome to Taipei Discussion and Learning. You're coming all the way from Cuzco, Peru, is that true?
Actually, I'm in a small town on the way to Cuzco.
Okay.
So I'm following an ancient road that goes from the Pacific Ocean into the Andes.
Okay, well, we were hoping to have one of our friends who spent some time in Peru, but we had a big party last night, so he might not be coming.
Partying in Taipei.
Yeah. It was the Daniel Pearl Day, Day of Music and Peace. But I posted your bio on Facebook, so hopefully some of the people read that. But why don't you go ahead and start by introducing yourself, and then if you want, you can go into the PowerPoint I know you prepared, and otherwise, if you would rather have some questions before that, it's kind of up to you. So you let us know if you want questions right after your bio, or you can go into your PowerPoint.
We could actually do both if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Well, greetings everyone.
Hello.
And thank you for this opportunity. My name is Brien Foerster, and I've been studying indigenous people since I was a child, mainly because of the richness of the different cultures. For example, on the west coast of Canada, in Hawaii, and then also now here in South America, most specifically Peru. So what attracted my attention, of course, initially here was, Machu Picchu, of course, which everyone comes to visit. But what I started to see almost immediately was the fact that some of the stone buildings that are attributed to the Inca seem to be almost impossible for people without some kind of high technology to be able to construct, because the accuracy of the joints between, in some cases, multi-ton, very hard stone is so fine that you can't fit a human hair in between. And so the question immediately arose, how could a culture with bronze chisels and stone hammers accomplish this, no matter how many thousands of people were at work? So over time, I've been able to bring engineers from the United States and Great Britain as part of my tours here, and I've just asked them to look at these things and tell me what their opinion was, and overwhelmingly they said that no civilization with the level of technology being bronze chisels and stone hammers could have accomplished this. So then the question is, well, how in modern times would we do this? And then after that is reflecting as to how could an ancient culture do this. So that's more or less what my PowerPoint presentation is. It's breaking down the illusion that the Inca were responsible for this, and more the evidence seems to be leading to the idea that there was a much more advanced civilization thousands of years prior to the Inca living in the highlands of Peru. And there are many examples, of course, in ancient Egypt of workmanship that's very similar, that again is stated as being Egyptian or pharaonic Egyptian, which clearly isn't, because again, the highest level of technology that we know of that the ancient pharaonic Egyptians had was bronze chisels and stone hammers. So that's more or less where I'm at this point, and also the elongated skulls. More and more as I research on location the megalithic sites, lo and behold, in any museum that would be on location or nearby, you always find elongated human skulls there as well. So the question is, who were these people? And again, that's more or less where I'm at.
Okay, and you're going to be talking about like different construction styles, or like different sizes of stones, that kind of thing?
Yeah, basically all of it. I'm going to take you through a tour of Cusco and the Sacred Valley of Peru, and Tiwanaku, which is in Bolivia, and then show you what is attributed to the Inca and pre-Inca people, and then just through the photographs, you'll see the incredible accuracy of the stone workmanship. And so it's up to you to make up your own minds as to what you're looking at. But overwhelmingly, the opinion is that conventional archaeology is simply misleading us, that they don't have the full picture, and so the story they're telling us isn't the full story. And of course, a lot of my work, is based on the work of people like Graham Hancock and his Fingerprints of the Gods, which was more or less the first major public book written about this subject.
Does anyone have a question for Brien before we get started? Okay, it's all you, Brien. Go ahead and start.
Okay, I just want to make sure that this is all going to work okay. Okay, can you see that okay?
It's loading up. It's the same thing that we did last night where you loaded up your PowerPoint. But yeah, it's coming up now.
Oh yeah, I see it. Full screen.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to change it to full screen. How do I do that?
I don't know.
Is it? This one. There we go. Yeah, that's it.
You muted?
No? No? That's stopping the video. Don't do that. Oh. That's actually...
Is it that one down there? Is it this one?
Maybe we can't make it full screen.
Oh.
Brien, are you still there?
Yeah, I've turned off my camera just to save on bandwidth.
Okay, there we go.
And then, there, whoops.
Oh.
There I've expanded it to the more or less 100% size.
Stop sharing? No.
Is there a way to move the camera?
Do you mind if we stop our video? Do you care to see us? I just want to get everything off the screen so we can see your PowerPoint really clearly.
No, that's fine. That's probably the best way to go.
No. No.
Oh, that's his. That's his actually.
Oh, go to the camera.
Turn on the camera. Yeah.
There we
okay,
go.
That's good. Okay.
All right, we're all good. We're all good. You go ahead.
Okay. So basically, this is I'm going to take you through the story of what is conventionally believed as compared to what people outside of the archaeological field say. So again, one of the problems in both Egypt and Peru, for example, is that you have almost everything is written by the archaeologists who don't have necessarily expertise in engineering or geology, etc. And so by bringing in geologists and engineers and architects and physicists and getting their opinion, you develop a much different story from the conventional one written in books. This is the sort of way of the are depicted as being these superhumans who appear more or less about the year 1100 AD and found the Inca civilization around Cusco. And most of the conventional stories are that they originated at Lake Titicaca, which is south of Cusco. Lake Titicaca, half of it is in Peru, half of it is in Bolivia. And again, most of the stories say that they originated on the island of the sun. And this is an example of Inca-style architecture that was found. It's basically fieldstone mixed with clay mortar to act as a cement to bind the stone together. And it's not exactly the most highly evolved way of building. The walls stand, etc. But it's not, you wouldn't call this an example of an advanced society. And this is on the island of the Moon, which is nearby. And again, it's the same kind of build thing. All of the design that you see is what we believe to be Inca. And again, it's field stone, roughly broken, and then you have this mortar made up of a high concentration of clay, local clay. But the other place that they're thought to have come from is Tiwanaku in Bolivia. And that, fortunately, Tiwanaku, even when it was incredibly imperfect, is the fact that it was reconstructed in 1960s, and so the archaeologists took all the stone from the area and rebuilt these walls based upon what they thought ancient Tiwanaku looked like. The only original stones here are the megalithic, the large standing stones. Those are original, and you can see the amount of weathering on them. This is the famous Gate of the Sun at Tiwanaku. That's the most famous thing which is there. What a lot of local guides won't tell you is the fact that it was actually moved there at some point in time from another location. It's one massive block of very hard andesite stone. You can see the crack line to the right-hand side. It was originally found half buried in the mud and broken in half. So this is a multi-ton stone that somehow was snapped in two. And these are the remains of what is Pumapunku, which is nearby. Tiwanaku and Pumapunku are in fact the same site. It's just, I think that Pumapunku is much older. And the interesting thing is that the quality of workmanship is much better at Pumapunku, or the Pumapunku time period, than the later Tiwanaku period. And that's something we're going to see time and again, compared to the conventional story whereby civilization advances, ever upwards. In places like Peru, you see evidence of where there were high civilizations that collapsed, and then other civilizations rose. And we also believe that that's the same case in Egypt as well. That, again, the Pharaonic Egyptian period was an evolved people, but they were not responsible, for example, for the Sphinx or the Great Pyramids, that those are actually remnants of an old civilization that was much more technologically advanced than the pharaohs were. This is an example of Pumapunku, where you see a channel that's cut into this very hard stone, at least as hard as granite, and then these drill holes. And they were not drill holes made with a piece of wood and a piece of stone wrapped around it in order to create that hole. There are other examples where you find hundreds of drill holes, all the same diameter, and all from antiquity. This is a German reconstruction of what some of this Pumapunku looked like before the time and they're told more than moved more modern buildings starting during the Spanish colonial times, more than 400 years ago. And these are skulls that have been found on the location of Tiwanaku at Pumapunku, and you see some of them are elongated skulls. The unfortunate thing is that this display, which is at Tiwanaku, is no longer on display. The skulls have been removed, and the display case says that this exhibition, or this display, has been permanently closed, and we don't know why. Again, the fanciful depiction of the Inca arriving from the Lake Titicaca to educate the masses that they encountered. This is what the modern-day depictions of what the Inca looked like, according to the Spanish artists of the time, in the early 1500s. Unfortunately, the majority of the High Inca family were massacred prior to the arrival of the Spanish, and so we don't really know what the real Inca looked like. This is probably more likely what one of the Inca looked like. The men had short hair, and the more depictions that I'm able to find, the oldest ones, it looks like their head might have actually been at least slightly elongated, as if they were the remnants of a much older civilization that had elongated skulls. They arrived in the area of Cusco, this place called the Sacred Valley, and the reason why they probably left the Lake Titicaca area is that they were under attack from a people called the Aymara, and so they either knew of or traveled on an ancient road which took them north to this incredibly fertile area, which has been a place of agriculture for thousands of years. And on the way, they would have encountered this form of construction. This was made by the Wari culture, which preceded the Inca as a large civilization in the Andes. But again, you see the form of construction. It's rough stone stacked together, in some cases with clay mixed in between as a binding agent. But then, along this ancient road, they would have encountered this. And you see that it's clearly a megalithic wall. And you see the size of the block. This man is Arlen Andrews, who is an American engineer, 40 years experience, and he was completely dumbfounded when he saw this. Because again, he said there's no way that it could be the result of a civilization with bronze chisels and stone hammers. What's interesting is in behind, you see the higher part of the wall. That, we believe, is Inca construction. So what you have is the megalithic, which is probably much older, but what the Inca did is they wouldn't take anything down. They would simply add their own footprint or fingerprint onto these much older structures. And this is the Coricancha, which was the spiritual center of the Inca in Cusco. You notice the curved wall at the bottom, and the way that the stone, this picture's not that great, but the way the stone is finely put together. The basalt that makes up this wall was brought from 50 kilometers away. And the structure on top of that is the Church of Santo Domingo, which the Spanish started to build about 1533. This is a close-up picture of that, and you can see the difference in construction technique. You see the Spanish construction uses a lot of mortar, but the quote-unquote Inca building has none. And it's actually earthquake damage, which has caused separation of these blocks. When it was constructed, and probably for a very long period of time, it would have been so finely put together that, again, you couldn't fit a human hair in between. And it's not just on the surface. The fine joinery goes through the wall, which is more than 2 feet thick. This is what the Coricancha originally would have looked like before the church was put on top of it. And inside are a number of stones which have just basically been stacked around because they don't know where to put them. There was a major earthquake in 1950 which caused a lot of the original church to fall down, and it exposed the foundation, which was the so-called Inca Coricancha building. But you see the clasps, which they call keystones, which theoretically were used to hold the stones together by pouring molten metal in place. And this is a quote-unquote door, which is inside the Coricancha, which actually isn't a door because it doesn't go through. It's a recess on one side and then a recess on the other side, and you see these holes and grooves. No one has been able to satisfactorily explain what the function of this was, and indeed when the Coricancha was built. And this is one of our, so-called smoking gun things in the Coricancha. There's only one of them, And it's a hole about 2.5 feet through. The stone is broken off at both ends, so we don't know how long it would have been. But you'll see that there are grooves running down through this stone. So some kind of boring tool of some kind was used. But this stone is on the Mohs scale, which is hardness from 1 to 10, with diamond being 10. This is about 7 on that scale. And again, it's either andesite or basalt, which is very hard. And so the question is, how could an Inca tool have made a circular cut like this, boring straight through the stone? This is what the interior of the Coricancha looks like. And again, this was exposed in 1950 when the church collapsed down on top of it. This is a curious stone in the center of Coricancha that has no description whatsoever to it. None of the guides have any idea what it is. It's one block of basalt. It's about the size of a hot tub. And the little sign you see behind it actually says, "Please don't step on the flowers." There's no description of the stone whatsoever. In Inca philosophy, the Coricancha building was the center of energy, the center of their spiritual existence. And so there are radiating lines that emanate out called sete lines. And along these lines, you find ancient megalithic structures. You also find shaped stones, sacred trees, small bodies of water, etc. And just outside the Coricancha, this is an Inca period street, and it coincides with the solstice, the summer solstice, or actually the winter solstice. So at the winter solstice, the sun rises exactly in the center of this little street and points directly towards a building called the Coricancha. And this is just to the right of that street, and you can see there are at least 3 levels of construction. You see the green stone in the front is megalithic. Off to the left is basalt construction, a smaller stone, and on the right side is what we know of as Inca period, and it again is roughly shaped stone, probably done so with stone tools, and then mortar is put in between to hold it in place. So you and above that is Spanish. So you have the megalithic at the bottom, and then repair work done seemingly by later people. And from archaeological digs at the Coricancha, they have discovered a number of these elongated skulls, which they've labeled as being Inca, but they've never been carbon dated as far as I know. So the Inca label is something that they put on when they don't know, anything else to say. On the side of the Coricancha, we have another example, the reconstruction. This big wall in the background is the original. Again, it's like at least 200 feet long, and in a lot of places you can't fit a human hair in between. Then in the foreground, the lower section, you see that that's the same stone. It's basalt, but that clearly looks like it was originally part of another wall, or this wall, but was reconstructed probably during Inca times. And we know that because there is clay mortar in between. The Spanish, when they arrived in Peru, had the knowledge of concrete. And so they were able to build with concrete their own buildings, churches, etc. And so that's probably what we're seeing above the megalithic square blocks is fieldstone, and then concrete has been used by the Spanish in order to complete the reconstruction. This is another wall called the Inca Roca wall, and this is famous because it's polygonal. Each one of those stones is of a different shape and size. The conventional archaeological story is that the builders would find stones and then they would shape them to an approximate fit and then interlock them together. What we'll see is the fineness of how this wall was put together. And even more profoundly is the fact that they decided, the original builders, to make pictograms. So it's not just the fact that you have different shaped stones together, but they decided to make this, in this example, it's the shape of a puma. So this big stone in the center is the head of the puma, and the rest of the body is shown. You see the tail and the legs. And then to the right of this is another interesting stone, that one, the multifaceted one you see in the center. And then as we pull back with the camera, it's a representation of the snake. So not only do great builders decide to make something incredibly complex in terms of composition, they decided to make animal figures as part of the design. And this is kind of interesting because the more that we're looking at this and the more we're looking around the world, we're looking at the fact that a long time before the so-called, peoples of a country, the predominant culture that exists in a country, that there could very well have been much older cultures. So this, for example, is part of the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. And it eerily looks like the construction in Cusco. And this again is an example of very hard volcanic stone, different shaped blocks put together very intricately. And this again is part of the Imperial Palace in Tokyo. And this, of course, looks like it would be in Cusco, but this, in fact, is Easter Island. And there are only two examples of this amazing megalithic work that I saw when I was there in February.